Welcome to the Penn State Wrestling Show. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Greg Pickle, our expert wrestling reporter, here to bring you the latest news, conversation, and interest in Penn State wrestling. Things are heading towards the Big Ten regular season. I can't believe how are we already here, Greg? Like, it's December 19th. December, November have flown by. You know,
Yes.
The new year brings the wrestling, the conference wrestling schedule. But before then, there's still some important things to learn and some things to talk about. So first off, how you doing? There's, of course, like double duty with the college football playoff game at Beaver Stadium coming up this weekend. So as always, Greg is the man for doing all of this stuff. But how you holding up?
I'm looking forward to this weekend, T. Frank. We have college football playoffs. We have the NFL on multiple days. We have college football bowl games. We have college basketball going on. As we're recording this, the morning of December 19th, the Penn State women's volleyball is playing in the Final Four tonight. And, of course, on Sunday, why we are here is for Penn State Wrestling's final regular season event of the 2024 portion of its schedule. Looking forward to the Collegiate Wrestling Duals. We got some stuff to clean up before we get into that, but should be a great Sunday for Penn State Wrestling in Nashville.
Yeah, so Big Ten Wrestlers of the Week. Let's start there. Let's talk about what's the latest with the Nittany Lions, and another honor, I'm assuming, for several of the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, T. Frank. Penn State just blew out Wyoming back on Sunday at the Bryce Jordan Center. Penn State winning every bout by bonus points, and the Big Ten picked its Wrestlers of the Week. Bo Bartlett is its Wrestler of the Week, and Luke Lillidahl is its Freshman of the Week. Bartlett at 141 pounds made really quick work of number 28, Cole Brooks. Called him early and pinned him in 47 seconds, which was impressive, and it was one of maybe, I would say, Bartlett's better showings in terms of striking quick and taking out his opponent quickly.
Exactly what you were talking about, too, right? Of
Right.
something that you thought he needed to work on, is scoring more points and being more aggressive.
Yeah, the key will be, of course, doing it against the best opponents, but Cole Brooks is no pushover, even though he's ranked 28th. So, very impressive win for Bartlett. And then the Freshman of the Week, Luke Lillidahl, we talked extensively about him over the last couple of weeks. You can find replays of those episodes here on the Blue-White YouTube channel. But he made quick work of his opponent, one of 4 Nittany Lions, to win by technical fall. He opened up the match by beating Wyoming's Jack Brayman 20-5, needing just 4:25 to do so. And so I think the Big Ten could have picked just about any Penn State wrestler to be the Big Ten Wrestler of the Week. And in terms of the freshmen, they had some other Nittany Lion choices there potentially. But just another quick reminder about how well this team wrestled last Sunday.
Yeah, 54-0 was the win for, obviously, if you're watching this show, you already knew that, but just probably feels good to hear once again. 54-0 in the dual meet against Wyoming at the BJC. But there's other information. Alex Fundo, what's the latest there?
Yeah, so, again, I think most people obviously are aware that Alex Fundo, former 165-pound starter for Penn State who took an Olympic redshirt season last year, dropped down to compete with Tyler Casack for the open 157-pound spot. He lost that battle. Casack obviously has been very good for Penn State in the lineup, and Fundo, Cael Sanderson told reporters on Tuesday of this week, is dealing with an injury that's going to keep him off the mat for a little while. No word on what that injury is specifically. It doesn't sound like it'll totally end his season, because keep in mind, he's a guy who is a tremendous workout partner in the room, travels and works, warms the team up before road matches. He isn't, even though he's not a starter, like many of the non-starters, in fact, all of the non-starters on this Penn State wrestling team, a key cog in the operation. So unfortunate for him that he's going to be off the mat for a bit. And obviously some others, and there's certainly enough candidates in the room, will need to step up and fill the duties he was filling prior to this setback. So we'll see what happens with him. But, again, if there was any question about this being Tyler Casack's job, I don't think there was. But if there was, certainly those are now completely out the window after we heard this news from Cael Sanderson back on Tuesday.
How do you feel about the depth? This is the second injury. And again, we don't know if it's long-term. Like you said, doesn't sound like long-term, but the second injury that we've heard about. So depth, resiliency of the lineup. What are your opinions and observations at this point?
Yeah, the other one, of course, Aaron Nagao at 133 pounds. That is a long-term injury. He will be back on the mat no time soon, from what Cael Sanderson told us a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I think it's probably a good segue to the event we're going to talk about next, because Penn State will wrestle 3 matches on Sunday at the Collegiate Wrestling Duals. And I think one thing that they are still weighing, and I guess I'll just transition us right into that conversation by answering your question, but how do they approach that? And so, do you wrestle all of your starters, all 3 matches? There's enough time between matches. There's more time between matches than there is at the Big Ten tournament or the national tournament. So there's not really any concern there. Like Cael Sanderson said, at those events, if things are going well, you're going to wrestle twice in a day. If not, you're going to wrestle 3 times and maybe more. So not really anything these guys are not used to. But to answer your question, I think that the injuries is where, are going to play a factor in the decision-making process. Number one, about who travels to Nashville with Penn State that's not in the starting lineup. And then, number two, what choices do you have if you don't want to wrestle a particular guy in all 3 matches? So we'll see how they play it as we are, can always rest assured.
What
Cael
are your
Sanderson,
expectations? What are your expectations about that?
Yeah, Cael Sanderson and his staff always have a tremendous plan. I would think, based on the fact how many guys wrestled at the Army Black Knight Invitational, like I take Cael Sanderson at his word when he says that these guys just want to wrestle. And I think that unlike years past, I'm not sure how much of the quote unquote veteran schedule we're going to see for guys like Carter Starachi, for Greg Kirkfleet. It just doesn't seem like, and I could be wrong, we'll find out for sure on Sunday, but it just seems like they want to be on the mat at every opportunity that they get. At the same time, this is probably a longer answer to your question, but you also have a lot of guys on this team who are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to help the starters who are probably going, if they're on the travel roster, probably going to this event thinking, there's 3 matches here and I might have a chance to get on and compete in one of them. So, do you take a freshman who you're planning the red shirt and get him experience? Do you take a backup who's been a key part of the program and get him a match? I think those are the things Cael Sanderson and his staff have to weigh. So I would think the majority of the 10 starters will compete in all 3 matches. I do think, though, we'll see some other guys get a chance, especially probably against Binghamton, which will be the, I hate to say the easiest match on the schedule, but certainly when you look at who they're facing, Binghamton first, Little Rock second, Missouri third, Binghamton's the only unranked team in that group. Some good wrestlers, but I think if you're going to see some guys in and out of the lineup, it's probably in that opening match.
Gotcha. Well, let's get into it, and let's get your preview of the Collegiate Wrestling Duals coming up this weekend on Sunday. What are you seeing, and what are the matches that you are most interested in?
Yeah, pretty fun event. Penn State's been to it before, not since it's moved to Nashville. It was in Nashville.
Everybody loves Nashville. Everything's in Nashville now. I've noticed
Nashville and Indianapolis are like the sports capital of the world. It just seems like no matter what, every time you turn around, those 2 cities are hosting something athletic related. But so Penn State didn't go last year. Obviously, the Olympic trials and getting ready for that. And what was going on back in December was one of the biggest reasons, and perhaps the main reason why. But without that on the calendar this year, Penn State's going to head back to this event. It's a great event. It's fun. There's a lot of other teams there. Rofkin's going to stream it if you have a subscription to them. But as it relates specifically to Penn State, like I said, they're going to wrestle Binghamton at 3 p.m. Little Rock, who is 16th in Intermat's dual meet rankings, at 5 p.m. and then Missouri, who's number 15, at 7 p.m. So there's a lot of top 10 and top 15 bouts that are possible, T. Frank. I look at, again, some of these may not happen based on availability, based on, because keep in mind, we talked about this from the Penn State specific angle of how will it handle 3 matches. Well, how will the other teams handle 3 matches?
Right.
So, you would like to think that the headliner bout of the day is going to be number 2 Levi Haynes against number 1 Keegan O'Toole of Missouri at 174 pounds. It would be very, very, very disappointing if that match does not happen, but we'll have to wait and see if both wrestlers are going to be a go in the lineup for that match. T. Frank Haynes could also face number 12 Brevin Casella of Binghamton at 174 pounds in the team's first match of the day. Another headliner bout, number 11 Braden Davis against number 5 Nazir Bailey of Little Rock at 133 pounds. Bailey was upset last week, and I can't remember who got him, but he certainly will be back on the mat, ready to roar, and it'll be another great test for Braden Davis at 133 pounds. You move up to 184. Carter Starachi is going to face number 10 Colton Hawks Jr. of Missouri, assuming both compete in that match. And then at 197, it's going to be a busy day for Josh Barr, T. Frank, the redshirt freshman who is just off to a fantastic start. Up to number 7 in the Intermat rankings, he'll face both potentially number 5 Stephen Bailey of Little Rock and then number 4 Rocky Elam of Missouri at 197 pounds. So hopefully a lot of these matches, if not all of them, happen. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out, but certainly some headliner bouts on the card when Penn State is on the mat in Nashville.
How do these bouts affect rankings, and does any of that matter at this point in the year? Because I know
Yeah.
some of the things we've been talking about, Josh Barr and Luke Lildahl have kind of shot up the rankings as they've won. Do you expect any of that to happen from this? And then what is the general impact of any of those things that happen in the non-conference?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Haynes can go to number one if he beats O'Toole, if that match happens. Certainly Barr, if he even splits his two matches with guys ranked ahead of him, or if he would win both, would certainly have a case to move into the top five. And then Braden Davis, kind of the same thing if he takes on and beats Nazir Bailey. But in terms of the long-term impact of this, number one, it's a chance to get three matches on your resume. If you remember back to last year, come NCAA tournament time, some Penn State guys did not have enough matches in to meet some of the seeding criteria, which put them in different positions than maybe they otherwise would have been had they met that criteria. So it's a chance to get, like the Black Knight Invitational, three matches in and get closer to the a number of matches needed to be in the right place for qualifying. So I think that's key. And then, yes, certainly the outcome of these bouts, if they happen, will have a big impact on seeding down the road. It's one of those events, T. Frank, where not just related to the wrestlers we're talking about from Penn State, Missouri, Binghamton, and Little Rock, but all the teams that are there. When you look back on this event in March, I guarantee you're going to point to results from one of the bouts, or probably many of the bouts, and say this is why X is ranked here or Y is ranked here at the national tournament. So very important weekend on tap for a lot of guys across the country, and Penn State certainly will be focused on doing the best it can and trying to come away with 3 wins as well.
Any final thoughts here as we end the show about what's coming up, or any of the other interesting plots and things that you're monitoring with Penn State Wrestling over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com?
Yeah, a couple of things. So number one, this is, of course, like I said, the final event of 2024 for Penn State. So it starts the 2025 portion of its schedule in early January when Big Ten dual meet action opens. I believe Michigan State is the first up for Penn State in January. So, they'll have some nice time off, get to do some things for the holidays, of course, and then get back at it. Wrestlers seem to never take some time off. But anyway, they'll get a little bit of it at least here after this event until sometime in early January. And then for the sport itself, T. Frank, we saw last year mid-year enrollees, not at Penn State but at other schools, take the mat for the spring semester and impact the outlook of certain weight classes. So I'll be watching to see, as the fall semester rolls into the spring semester, if there's any changes around the country that will impact either a Penn State wrestler's path to a Big Ten or national title, or just a dual meet in the January, February portion of the schedule. So those are the two big things to keep an eye on here as we head into the holiday break for college wrestling.
Yeah, so there's a holiday break. We might be taking a little bit of a break as well ourselves, but don't go too far, because we're going to have coverage for you here on the Penn State Wrestling Show and at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com throughout the holidays. Greg and I haven't really talked about it yet. I apologize. Doing it live on air. I don't know if we want to do a show next week, but with Christmas coming up, we've got a modified schedule for the rest of the channel. So just stay tuned. We'll have something over the next 2 weeks, but I can guarantee you, Greg deserves a break. So we're going to be taking a break here from the show one of the next couple of weeks. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. That's Greg Pickle. Check him out at Greg Pickle on social media. And, of course, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Sign up right now for $1. Get a week's access to our site to try things out. And then if you're a Penn State fan of the sports in general, you can get in on wrestling, basketball, football, recruiting of all different kinds.
The transfer portal.
Everything going on right now in all of the sports. So we will talk to you later here on the Penn State Wrestling Show. And as always, if you're here enjoying the show, please subscribe to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel and like the video. Always helps us out.